Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. So, in the last episode, I talked about storytelling, right? How why storytelling is important and how it can help your demo, right? That's great. That's pretty cool from a overview perspective, right? The things which you need to do. But what I want to do today in this episode to talk about the journey, which from a storytelling to demo, right? And there are a lot of things that's involved. I mean, I'm going to demonstrate from my own experience because I've done that, you know, zillions of times. Trailhead covers a lot of things, which is great, right? I do going to include the stuff from a trailhead so that we keep the stuff consistent, right? So the first thing first. Um, so you got a story, right? The story you wanted to convey to your customer, and then to um, and to demo stuff based on the story you cover, right? So let me give you an example, right? Let's say you wanted to talk about um, an opportunity to a customer, um, to say, hey, why Salesforce is important for your business instead of doing a regular Excel document to maintain the customer and the pricing information, right? Number one reason is that everything is centralized. It will be in the cloud. You will get the up-to-date information about the pricing information so that your sales guys can get the latest priced quote when the customer requests for, let's say, a kind of a beer. You can create an opportunity. You can do a reporting stuff. You can create a dashboard, to see the performance, how the performance has been for say, for instance, for a particular quarter. Um, and then you can also use Chatter to have an internal communication. There are a lot of things you can suggest to your customer. Now, this is a storytelling, right? Your story should involve why Salesforce is important for the business, right? You got to say, hey, your brewery will. Now, if I am a brewmaster, right, I will say, why do I care about the Salesforce to begin with? So, you might get counter questions when you have a demo, right? So, or you when you wanted to, okay, let's take a step back. Forget about the demo for a second. If you're going to propose Salesforce to a customer, right, like I said, to a brewery, maybe a brewmaster might be in the meeting, right, and will say, hey, why do I care about the software? Why do I care about the Salesforce? I'm a brewmaster. All I care about brewing the best kind of beer so that people can drink beer, right? Now, to answer that question, right, you can always say, hey, I agree that you're a brewmaster, right? But think about a scenario, right? If you have lots of documents that's been floating around, the customers are not getting proper price, that the kind of beers you make, right, will not be appreciated by different people if they have a lot of other issues, right? For instance, the pricing is not right, getting a bad customer satisfaction from a support because data is all over the place, so they can't service the customer in the right way. So imagine that everything is centralized, right? You don't have to worry about pretty much most of the things. Salesforce will take care of it. You need maybe an admin or maybe one or two staff, and the rest of the people can focus on what they're doing well. And the brewmaster, yes, brewmaster don't even have to worry about any of this stuff, right? Perhaps the sales course can help you, write down your favorite recipe somewhere. We can put it as a documentation and store it in the Salesforce rather than storing somewhere, right? A lot of things you can do that. Now, to achieve that, right, you need to prepare internally, right? You need before you go and say this to customer, you need to work out the plan. What's the best step to do it? So the first thing is that go to a whiteboard, take a team with you, maybe one or two person, and say, this is my thought process. I'm going to start with, hey, why Salesforce is important. Put it as a one box, and the next to that say, okay, we'll start with the next stage, uh, how it's going to impact your business, right? And what's the current challenges associated with the business, right? And where all of these things fit in. And then if your team say, hey, that order is not correct, maybe we should start not with the Salesforce first. Maybe we should say the challenges your business is facing and what we can do to improve it and what technology we can bring in to improve it. How about that? So you see, The whiteboard session is very important, right? It actually gives you clarity of thought, how to navigate with your flow, right? And once that is nailed down, it's obviously good to put that into a slide, right? Obviously, customers understand more if you demonstrate in the form of a slide. Yeah, I do get it. You can talk for an hour, but if you have a slide to back that up, you know, the visual representation always create an impression in your brain, which retains the information for quite for longer than someone just merely talking. So what that means is that if you see a picture, or if you see, say for instance, if someone talks about a bird, right? Let's say X Y is a bird, and you never heard about the bird, right? You might create a mental image of a bird based on the whatever bird right? But if you have a graphical representation of the bird right in front of you in the form of a slide, then you can, in your mental, in your mind, you can create that image of the bird, right? And that memory, that information will be retained in your memory for a longer period of time, right? So I personally believe that using a slide is important when you're giving customer presentation. And then you can do the demo, right? You might think that, oh, okay, this is pretty simple, right? I've been doing that all the time. You you might you might have seen a couple of Steve Jobs old videos where he wanted to do a demo and didn't go very well, and he got super frustrated. Things can go wrong, right? So it's always good to prepare. No matter how good you are, still things can still go wrong. I've done a lot of demos, right? Product demos. At times, you think, okay, this thing works. Sometimes what happens is that, let's say you wanted to take customer from A to Z, you might get stuck, say, somewhere, and then you don't know what to do, right? Then you try to, fiddle with something else, try to fiddle with something else, and it's kind of create a very bad impression, right? And a customer might say, hey, can we do this some other time, right? Because go and fix your stuff first. So that's not really great stuff. So it's very important to prepare your demo and to know the right story to speak before you show your demo. That's why whiteboard session is very, very important. Bring your team, internal team, figure out what's the best way to do it, and then demonstrate. Because sometimes you may only get one chance to impress your customer, and make sure that you better use the chance in the right way, or better use that opportunity in the right way. So that's one of the reasons why I find this storytelling session the most critical part of any product journey, right? Because you need to tell the story which customer can understand. Then only the customer will be willing to buy a product. Otherwise, they will say, "Hey, I can't relate it, so I'm not gonna buy this." So yeah, that's something I'm telling from my own experience. So I think it's very important that whatever story you're going to build, right, just take the help of your team and start building it. It's not rocket science. It's a simple thing which can be done in a very efficient way and will give you an excellent result, right? So that's all I wanted to talk about in this episode. I hope you enjoyed the storytelling. And what I'll do, what I'll suggest to you as a part of a, let's say, assignment, right? Take it as an assignment, right? Try to create a story, right? And try to, let's say you wanted to demonstrate a flow, Salesforce flow to a customer. Okay. How are you going to do that? What's the story you're going to build? Try that out with your mate, try that out with your coworkers, and see how that goes, right? Use a Blackboard session. Try to convince someone who's not a Salesforce guy. Okay, let's say you have a different team in your company, right? Say SAP or a Google, or okay, invite one of the person from that team and say, hey, I'm going to explain to you flow. That person, if perhaps may not know what flow is. So it's your job to convey the story and explain to them what is the use of Salesforce flow. Try it out and see how that goes. Right. All right. That being said, I hope you guys have an amazing Sunday. Adios.